NBIA, Natural Bioscience Intelligence Agency. The science is real. The mission is yours.
The SKU is called Citri Boost Sport. Parent company is a regional brand called Apex Hydration, acquired 2019. Distribution, 17 states. Present in 6 airport vending contracts, 42 school district cafeteria systems, and 11 hospital wellness programs. The active emulsifier is brominated vegetable oil.
Confirm the reformulation status.
8 of the 12 SKUs have been reformulated with a structurally similar brominated compound. This one has not. They are selling through to inventory depletion. Nobody in the institutional channel received notification.
BVO is a triglyceride with bromine atoms in place of hydrogen at the carbon double bonds. It competes directly with iodine at the thyroid sodium-iodide symporter. The body cannot tell the difference between a transporter problem and a dietary deficiency. It just stops making the hormones it needs. It's in every citrus soda category still running pre-ban inventory. Mountain Dew knockoffs, citrus electrolyte blends, some caffeinated energy drinks sold under generic store labels. The compound was flagged in toxicological literature 50 years ago. The FDA ban came in July 2024. The formulator was already moving before the ink dried. The solution is also real and specific. You'll have it before this episode ends. 36 hours earlier, Geneva.
Subclinical hypothyroidism. Defined clinically as elevated TSH with normal T4, the pituitary signaling louder because the thyroid is not responding at the expected level. In the data I'm looking at, incidence rates in inland states with low dietary seafood consumption have tracked consistently above coastal states since the mid-1990s. High sports drink market penetration correlates with the same geography. The demographic profile of communities served by the formulator's institutional vending contracts. Procurement officers, not consumers, making the beverage choice. Nobody questions what is already normalized. Joining the mobile briefing now.
The formulator acquired exclusive distribution rights in 2019 to 12 BVO-containing beverage SKUs across 3 regional brands. He accelerated placement into institutional channels, school vending, hospital cafeterias, corporate wellness programs. When the FDA ban was announced, he reformulated 8 SKUs with a structurally similar brominated compound, not yet subject to regulatory review. 4 SKUs are still moving through institutional inventory. No notification sent to procurement officers. No recall. Technically legal. Operationally precise.
The bromine in BVO is a halogen. So is iodine. The thyroid sodium-iodide symporter NIS cannot discriminate between them at the binding site. When bromide from BVO is circulating, it competes for the same transporter that iodine needs to enter thyroid follicular cells.
What does that actually mean for someone drinking one of these every day?
Think of the NIS transporter as a revolving door into a building. Iodine has a key card. Bromide doesn't, but it is the same size, the same shape, and it keeps entering the door anyway and walking straight back out the other side, accomplishing nothing, while preventing iodine from getting through. Enough bromide traffic and iodine is effectively locked out. Here is the mechanism. Bromide competitively inhibits iodide uptake at NIS. Thyroid iodide concentration drops. Thyroid peroxidase has insufficient substrate. T4 synthesis declines. The hypothalamus detects low circulating thyroid hormone and signals the pituitary to increase TSH output. TSH rises. The thyroid is being pushed harder by the pituitary and still cannot synthesize adequate T4 because the problem is at the transporter, not the gland. Subclinical hypothyroidism, brain fog, cold intolerance, weight that will not move regardless of caloric restriction. The consumer does not know why. Nobody told them there was a competition happening at their thyroid's front door.
And Haynes data confirms that the majority of Americans have borderline iodine status, urinary iodine concentrations hovering near or below 100 micrograms per liter. That is the threshold for mild deficiency. These are not people with a margin to absorb competitive halogen interference. These are people who are already operating at minimum.
The countermeasure.
Kelp, specifically Laminaria, japonica, and related species. The highest natural dietary source of bioavailable iodine, delivering 150 to 2,500 500 micrograms per gram of dried kelp depending on species and sourcing. Iodide from kelp enters the bloodstream via intestinal iodide transporters and competes directly at NIS, with bromide outcompeting it through mass action when present in therapeutic concentrations.
Viper is in the field confirming the sourcing standard. Frost the Wolff-Chaikoff mechanism.
Critically, kelp-derived iodine also activates the Wolff-Chaikoff response, a physiological autoregulatory mechanism that temporarily suppresses thyroid activity when iodine loads are acutely high, preventing overactivation. The thyroid can self-regulate around iodine because iodine is its substrate. It cannot self-regulate around bromide because bromide is a synthetic interference it was never designed to detect. The correction mechanism exists. BVO removes the substrate needed to trigger it.
18 hours later, Rishiri Island, Hokkaido, Japan. It's Rishiri kombu, harvested at 5 to 10 meter depth, cold Hokkaido seawater, sun-dried by traditional slow-cure, no-accelerated heat process. Iodine content, consistent and verifiable by third-party testing. This is not the majority of what is in the US supplement aisle.
The problem with commercial kelp supplements in US retail: iodine content varies by a factor of 20 depending on species, harvest depth, and drying method. Shallow warm water operations in unregulated Asian coastal zones, the most common supplement source, carry heavy metal contamination risk and unverifiable iodine concentration. The label may say kelp. It does not say iodine per serving. If it does not state the specific microgram dose, the dose is unknown.
The therapeutic value is in the sourcing standard. Rishiri kombu is the benchmark. Supplements sold in the US must carry third-party verified iodine content in micrograms per serving, not just a kelp weight. Without that, the product is a guess.
N3. Confirm peak plasma iodide concentration timeline following therapeutic kelp-derived iodide ingestion.
Kelp-derived iodide is absorbed via intestinal iodide transporters in the small intestine. Peak plasma iodide concentration is reached within 60 minutes of ingestion. Bioavailability is near complete. At therapeutic intake of 150 to 300 micrograms daily, competitive displacement of bromide at NIS is measurable within 24 to 48 hours. T4. Synthesis recovery follows within the same window, assuming adequate cofactors, tyrosine, selenium, zinc, are present.
Frost the cofactor matrix in kelp.
Kelp carries tyrosine, the amino acid substrate on which iodine is grafted during T4 synthesis, alongside selenium and zinc, both required for thyroid peroxidase activity and deiodinase function. It is not a single compound, it is a matrix. Whole food kelp sources deliver the cofactors alongside the iodine. Isolated iodine supplements do not. Iodide from Rishiri kombu enters the small intestine. Intestinal iodide transporters absorb it into the bloodstream within minutes. Plasma iodide concentration rises. At 60 minutes, peak. The molecule reaches the thyroid. At the NIS transporter on thyroid follicular cells, the same transporter where bromide from BVO has been competing iodide, arrives in therapeutic concentration. Mass action. Iodide has higher binding affinity at NIS than bromide. The competition resolves. Bromide is displaced. Iodide crosses into thyroid follicular cells. Thyroid peroxidase enzyme present, active, waiting, oxidizes the iodide. The thyroglobulin scaffold, the protein that has been waiting for its substrate, receives iodine at the tyrosine residues. Monoiodotyrosine, diiodotyrosine. The coupling reaction occurs. T4 is synthesized, cleaved, released into the bloodstream.
So the transporter was blocked the whole time, not the gland. The thyroid was functional. It just couldn't get what it needed through the door.
The hypothalamic pituitary thyroid axis receives the signal it has been waiting for. TSH output normalizes. The signaling that had been pushing harder against an unresponsive door because the door was jammed by a halogen the thyroid could not detect begins to resolve. Within 24 to 48 hours of consistent therapeutic iodide intake, measurable increase in thyroid iodide uptake, T4 recovery begins.
The brain fog was not stress. It was a transporter competition that nobody disclosed. The institutional vending accounts are flagged. The 4 remaining BVO SKUs have been documented and reported to FDA's Chicago Enforcement Division. The reformulated 8, carrying the structurally similar brominated compound, are on record. The formulator's distribution network is mapped.
The sourcing standard is confirmed. Rishiri kombu at verified iodine concentration. Third-party lab testing. Specific microgram dose on the label. That is the threshold for therapeutic use.
The longitudinal data is archived. 30 years of subclinical hypothyroidism incidence mapped against BVO market penetration by state. The data has never been overlaid this way before. It will be.
Oxidative stress markers elevated 340% above baseline at the mitochondrial membrane. The compound targets complex 1 of the electron transport chain. Fatigue onset, 6 to 8 weeks. By week 12, the consumer is purchasing our energy supplement to manage symptoms of exposure to our food ingredient. Circular, scaling through the convenience meal category.
He is already 3 moves ahead.
The thyroid data will be submitted to the ATA Research Division. The overlay is now on record. If this pattern holds in the next 20 years of incidence data, it will be cited.
The formulator has already moved to the next compound, mitochondrial complex 1, convenience meal category. The next operation is authorized.
Everything you're about to hear has been published in peer-reviewed research. I'm going to give you the mechanism, the study, and the exact dose in plain language. The mechanism. Brominated vegetable oil introduces bromide, a halogen, into the bloodstream. Bromide competes with iodide at the sodium-iodide symporter on thyroid follicular cells. This is the transporter responsible for concentrating iodine from the blood into the thyroid for T3 and T4 synthesis. Bromide does not produce thyroid hormone. It occupies the transporter and exits. In sufficient concentrations, it measurably reduces iodide uptake into thyroid tissue, even when dietary iodine intake appears adequate. The result is subclinical hypothyroidism, elevated TSH, normal T4 on standard panel, and a set of symptoms: cognitive slowing, cold intolerance, weight dysregulation that clinicians routinely attribute to stress or aging. The study, Zimmerman, MB 2009, Endocrine Reviews, Volume 30, Issue 4, Comprehensive Review of Iodine Deficiency and Thyroid Function, confirmed that mild iodine insufficiency, defined as urinary iodine concentration below 100 micrograms per liter, produces measurable subclinical hypothyroid symptoms, including cognitive slowing, cold intolerance, and weight dysregulation. A subsequent analysis by Vobecki et al. 1996 Biological Trace Element Research confirmed competitive bromine-iodine antagonism at NIS in human thyroid tissue. The dose: 150 to 300 micrograms of iodine daily from a verified Kelp source. This stays well within the safe upper limit of 1,100 micrograms, above which the Wolff-Chaikoff response temporarily suppresses thyroid activity. Do not exceed the upper limit. The detail the industry does not want you to know. Iodized table salt, the primary iodine source for most Americans, delivers approximately 45 micrograms of iodine per quarter teaspoon. At current reduced sodium dietary guidelines, most adults are not reaching 150 micrograms daily from salt alone. If you are also consuming BVO-containing beverages or beverages reformulated with structurally similar brominated compounds not yet named in the FDA ban, you are running a deficit with active competition at the transporter. The correction requires a Kelp supplement with third-party verified iodine content. The label must state the specific microgram dose per serving. If it does not, the dose is unknown. Truth and transparency in human health.